I thought it was nice to see the work in like a new kind of setting. I've never seen my own work in this kind of setting. I get the whole idea of like toning it down and like not having the white box feeling. I think the atmosphere was more like a forest, like a misty, it's going into darkness, and I think you managed to create like a nice atmosphere for sure.
I had this impression that the special atmosphere with the music and lights and the video reunites all the different pieces together. It makes a whole thing.
The pieces are, I suppose, with the space constraint, they are much closer together than maybe usual. And then the addition of the screens I thought was quite interesting, because one would maybe put less things in, but the screens make the space smaller sometimes. Like you haven't gone right up to the walls, I realised, or the screen is placed a little bit in front of the wall. So I think it's interesting use of space.
I mean, it kind of leans into that idea of experience rather than just viewing, doesn't it? That kind of intensity of closeness and sometimes maybe a bit uncomfortable moving around something, which I guess you get that moving in a kind of dense forest or woodland or something that you're sort of having to navigate rather than just view, which I think is a nice kind of, a nice take on experiencing work. It's really interesting just to see the work in a different context. And like you're saying, not in that kind of white box space. And it kind of both makes this, it's a cohesive show, but it also gives you an opportunity to sort of look at each work individually for itself. And obviously everything is kind of based around wood and everybody's working with wood in their own way. But it's nice not to walk in and think, oh, this is just a show about wood, like as your first thing, because you're presented with this experience that is not necessarily what you're kind of expecting. I mean, even for me, for us, I guess you had images and sort of sneak peeks of what it was going to be like, but actually experiencing that was, it was interesting and exciting, like to see work in a way that I wouldn't necessarily show my own work in that way, or so that was, it was cool. I think it looks great. I think it's interesting because, so for me, making works to be kind of suspended in a space is sort of relatively new. With this piece in the show, there's a kind of fragility and delicateness, which when I'd showed it last year, it had lots of space around it. I hadn't even really thought about it going into the space, like are things competing? Because there's lots of things hung and very in quite close proximity, and actually I don't think they do compete. I think there's a kind of cohesiveness, but also I suppose that's it helps that each work is quite defined. Like I don't think you're going into that space thinking that my work and Oscar's work maybe are the same artist, or mine and Emmy's are the same. Like there's clearly sort of delineation between the works, and I think that is successful then. I think there's elements that bounce off one another quite nicely too, and sort of lead you around the space.
Yeah, I think the fragility and the lightness, the heaviness, and all the different sculptures, they were really speaking together, I think. And adding light as well helps to connect, like for your work and my work, and the light coming through and the shadows that created. And I think it's a nice play with the heaviness and the lightness, for sure.
I think it definitely worked to hang the objects. If they were all on plinths or on the floor, it would be very different and seem too crowded, I think. I have a feeling my piece is quite different to the other artists because it's so angular and geometrical, whereas the other artists have really used the natural forms that you can get out of wood. So I feel a little bit different in my corner.
Okay.
It's funny, I see what you mean, of course, but I think that your work and my work was kind of connected in a way as well. I'm working with the square, like the flat surface, so I think there was like a stepping into and then the hollowness into your work, and so I think there was a continuation of like a transformation maybe.
And then the groundedness with your work, of that sense of like the presence of it and sort of solidity
connected
of it.
To the ground.
Yeah,
yes.
for sure.
This kind of work that I've been working with the last years, like the thin end grain and like working with the earrings as a fingerprint and like the identity and the time perspective, all that kind of starts from my interest in forest and trees as bodies and trees as like living organisms. That's really what my work is rooted in, like literally. And now, like the forest, like the industry is monocultures, like Sweden and Scandinavia is like trees in straight lines and the same age. And the house that we bought is surrounded by two sides are this like industrial forest, and it's like weird. Like I have a. It's not a forest, it's like it's a plantation, right?
I feel connected with what you're saying because in all my work my purpose is to show the tree as a body, sometimes flesh, sometimes bones or skin. The plants and trees are poorly known by the general public. Usually people can't recognize the different species, or they don't know how they grow, why they die, or what can hurt a tree. That's why when I do an exhibition, I spend a lot of time to explain to people how it works, how the tree works. I feel it's a part of the job. I was not expected that. My work doesn't have a political message or something. It's not ecological. We are talking about eco-philosophy in French. I don't know in English. But it's a kind of deep ecology where nature or the other living beings are not there to be used by us. They deserve to exist and they deserve to grow and to be there. And just for that purpose, it's a good thing to protect them and not destroy everything. And in my work, I really want to show to the public how incredible nature is, because we're living in a time where the scientists made a lot of new discoveries about trees. It's very, very late in history. It's really incredible to know that, but at the same time, they disappear. There's a lot of disease because of the global warming and a lot of new invasive insects or fire.
I had the opportunity to go into Yoshino forest in Japan with a forester. Yeah, I think in Japan we really appreciate the unnaturally grown woods and forests, or the products that come out of that. So so Yoshino is like one of the oldest grown man-made forests in Japan, but it needs to be grown in a certain way. It needs constant upkeep. The trees are grown too close together so that they grow really tall and straight. So really kind of in a way unnatural processes to create this perfect straight grained wood, which is really prized.
What is the wood?
It's hinoki, like cypress and cedar. Okay. So the Yoshino is really famous for these two types.
I really like the idea that we have all our own universe, but it's all about tree. It's just a different approach, and it's really interesting to see that different point of view about it together. So I like to do group show like that with the same thematic, because all the works are so different, but it's talk about the same thing.
I think this is my first group show where it's only wood. I appreciate that. I think it's interesting to see our different approaches as well. It's nice to say that everyone has their own universe, because it's really like that. And then these universes overlap. These bubbles really go into each other as well. And you managed to find the overlapping parts of it, I think. I studied woodwork, and then I studied wood-oriented furniture design. So I've always had wood as the main material, even though I'm working with other materials as well. So sometimes it can be really when you talk about wood with someone interested in wood, it can be really nerdy, and it's kind of nice. Well, but I don't do it as often anymore, because a lot of my friends or artists also work with a lot of different materials, and it's great, but it's kind of nice to sit and talk about it. wood and trees and forests and...
It's kind of shocking, but not in like a bad way. Like coming in and actually kind of, because you're so, I don't know about all you guys, but when it's your work and you're kind of, you know, you have very specific kind of ideas of how you want your work to be shown and how it's seen and how you document it, and well, that's just, I guess maybe that's just the level of control that I want to have over things, and you know, but actually kind of giving that over and not having that control, and then and coming in, and it's kind of almost like experiencing your work for the first time again, because it's so different to how you are then perceiving or how you would show that or perceive that it should be shown. I thought it's just really interesting, and it's really challenging for me, for myself to kind of you know, it's like, am I okay with this? I guess I am, yeah. I like the fact that, you know, you're looking at things and you've got, from different points, you've got projections coming into your face and there's sound, and so you're being kind of like, you're having to sort of like navigate through those things as well to actually sort of then engage with the work, but then at the same time that light is playing off things differently and you're getting reflections that you wouldn't usually have, and shadows are being cast, and so I think it's quite an exciting take on an exhibition actually. I'm not just being polite.
With this kind of light, with the video, and when you come in the room, you can't see all the exhibition. You can embrace all the sculptures. You have to walk, and when the light changes, you can see differently the work. That's nice, because the room it's quite small, but you have a kind of a landscape in it.
Well, I agree with Max about that you're used to having control over like how you hang it and present it, and it's a bit scary maybe, but it's also kind of nice to let someone else just like, because it's interesting to see what happens then. I think the light, especially here, even though it's very like soft or dark, it creates something that I've been trying to like highlight in when I've presented it, even though I've done it with like stronger light, to have this like shadow and the play of the like what it creates in the shadow. So I think it's done very differently than what I've done before with it, but it's still what I think is important to be picked up in a way. I think it always changes after you talk about an exhibition together with other people and hear their experience. It always changes afterwards, and when you go in, you will see things that I didn't notice, or they will maybe I noticed them, but they will become much stronger. So I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah. Well, you take on other people's perceptions too.
Yeah,
you sort of, you know, they're kind of what they see in their work or what they see in your work, or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Similar to working on your own piece, and you work and you work and you work, and you're like this, and then you show it and you talk to people about it, and it kind of like changes. Like it is something else than what it was in your studio when you were like super focused on only that. And it's really important to talk to others, always also about your own work, but an exhibition or someone else's work.
It's also nice to just see other people's work and not just see your own work all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
It's when you're working, like when you're focused and you're working, and you do get into that zone of these are the only things you interact with for a while, and the only sort of, you know, so it's nice to see other people's work in the flesh and then have those artists there to kind of engage with, even if it is just nerdy wood talk.